Today, I want to continue the series that we began right before New Year's. And what I did was I preached a fairly typical, hey, let's go and make some New Year's resolutions that will stick with us. And I put it into the bulletin, and my bulletin maker, Marcy, blame all this on her. She says, wouldn't it be great if we could just do this every month instead of, you listing out these 12 things? Why don't you just take one every single month and we'll do it? So this is all Marcy's fault. Thank you, Marcy. So far, January through May, we have talked about how to love and not lust. We've talked about how to be relying upon other people and upon God rather than having an independent spirit and just trying everything on your own. We've talked about the importance of humility and how to avoid pride. I really have been struggling with that. Just this past week, I wrote you all about how proud I was of you. I struggle with pride. I'll be the first to admit it. A couple of months ago, we talked about having gratitude, thankfulness, not presumption, presuming everything should be coming our way. Last month, we talked about how to have a clear conscience and not be living in guilt. Now, if any of those sound like something that you could benefit from, they're all up on the web at churchrequel.org, and you'd be happy, you'd be more than willing, more than happy, we'd be more happy to let you go back and take a look at any of those, all right? But today, here's our resolution for June 2019. Students, you all ready? You got your pens and paper? I don't see very many of you having. Well, you know where the pens are, right? And you know where the paper is? Feel free. Why? Goodness gracious. It's not like this is the first time they've ever done this. So here's the mini resolution for June. God's will is that I would have integrity, not irresponsibility. That I would have integrity and not irresponsibility. Now, when we think of somebody with integrity, what do we think of? We think of somebody that, does what he says he's going to do. Pretty simple. His word is his bond. He keeps his promises. A few years back, I remember being part of an organization for men in the 90s called Promise Keepers. But God's will is that we all be promise keepers, that our word is our bond, that what we say we're going to do. God's will is that we have a godly character. God is a promise keeper. If God gives you a promise in his word, he keeps that promise. And the same thing should be true of us. Now, I always try to look for ways to relate this to both ourselves and to our students. I'm pretty excited about the Cleveland Browns this year. I just have to admit it. So Mary Kay says I watch way too much Cleveland Browns, and this is traditionally the best time to watch the Cleveland Browns. We have a new football coach. His name is Freddie Kitchens, and Freddie Kitchens was introduced by the owners, the Haslams, and as he was being introduced, they said that this is a man of integrity. I found that refreshing. And then I saw a video where he was on his way to his very first press conference, and he was sitting in the back of the car, and somebody asked Freddie Kitchens, are you nervous about this being your very first press conference as a head coach of anything, by the way? He's never been a head coach before, of high school, college, anything. First time. And Freddie looks over as calm as can be, and in his Alabama drawl, he was an Alabama boy. He still is an Alabama boy. He said, I learned a long time ago, if you just speak the truth, you never have to worry about what you're going to say. That is a man, I think, of integrity. So students, we're kind of few of us here today, but I'd love it if you would help me out as we preach through this today. And we have several points that we want to make. So when we get to those, would you like to preach it out for me and tell me what those points are? Leah, would you like to be the first one? You're shaking your head there. You want to come up here or you want to do it from back there? What do you like? You're going to come on up. All right, you're going to set the tone. I thought that would be the case. Why don't you tell them, say, number one, integrity means, and then you read that, and then here's what Pastor Mark does, all right? I always do it twice. Have you ever noticed that? I say integrity means da-di-da-di-da-di, da-di-da-di-da-di. That is, integrity means da-di-da-di-da-di and da-di-da-di. You ever notice I repeat it twice? Have you ever noticed that? Yeah, so you do. The reason is because they're kind of slow. They don't get it the first time. Okay? And then, when you do that, read it twice, then you read the Bible verse that goes along with it, okay? Could you do that? All right, let's give a hand to Leah, everybody. All right, there you go.
Number 1, integrity means doing the right thing in a reliable way. Integrity means doing the right thing in a reliable way. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their
Duplicity.
Okay, duplicity. Proverbs 11:3.
All right, let's let her know. Good job, girl. Good job. So integrity means doing the right thing in a reliable way. Somebody who has integrity is somebody who is reliable. It is the opposite of someone who's irresponsible. You know when you ask somebody to do something and they say they'll do it and then they never get around to it? That's somebody who's irresponsible. You can count on somebody who has integrity. We have songs about how we can count on God, right? And the reason we can count on God is because God is a God of integrity. And that is something that he would like us to be, not gods, but men and women and boys and girls of integrity, doing the right thing reliably, time after time, circumstance after circumstance. And I love this Proverbs verse. It says it so perfectly because it draws the picture of integrity as someone who's upright. See, the integrity of the upright on the one hand, and then it leads all the way to the other extreme on the other end of that verse. And what does it talk about? By their duplicity. There's an opposite there. There's somebody with integrity. There's somebody with duplicity. It's perfect because that's a wide spectrum. You cannot have duplicity with integrity. Somebody who's two-faced. Somebody who says one thing and does another. Or somebody who says one thing to one group of people and then says something else to another group of people. That's what duplicity means, right? Somebody who's a Christian when he's with Christians and with non-Christians when he's with non-Christians, and who is a Republican when he's with the Republicans, and a Democrat when he's with Democrats. Somebody whose face and flavor and actions and demeanor and all of who he is changes depending upon where he is. We call that animal chameleon. That's somebody who has duplicity. Now, I did not know this. I am very fortunate to work side by side with my partner, the other person that you pay on the staff here, Brandy Walker. Did you know that, she is called to be a musician. She's called to be able to do all of this worship stuff and design all this, and we're so thankful for that. But did you know that Brandy Walker is actually a mathematician? Did you know that? I know her mom knows that, but did the rest of you know that? Yeah, she's a math whiz. You want to know something about math, you talk to Brandy Walker. And Brandy Walker told me something one time that absolutely surprised me. This word integrity has a base word from it. It's integer, right? Did I say it right, math whiz back there? Integer. Can't you control that speaker thing so that I say the words correctly? Don't you have a dial back there? That comes from a Latin word, integer. If you're talking about numbers that are integers, they are whole numbers. It comes from the Latin word meaning whole. Okay, if you say integer in Latin, it means whole. And so somebody who is a man or a woman of integrity, or a boy or a girl of integrity, is a whole person. They're the same person no matter where they are, no matter what circumstance they're in, no matter who they are talking to. They are a whole person. They have the same character of integrity with one group of persons as with another group. They are the same person when they're in one place as when they're in another place. They're the same person when they're in a tough situation versus an easy, fun situation, all right? So the very first thing that we have learned today is that integrity means doing the right thing in a reliable way. We have to have a definition so we understand what this is, all right? Everybody with me on integrity? All right, let's go on to the second thing. Who wants to help me out? Anybody want to help me preach this morning? You want to come preach? All right, come on up here. We're going to train our future preachers here, right here, all right? So now this is what you want to say. You want to say number 2, and you want to say that line, and then they don't always get it the first time. So you say it again the second time, and then read that Bible verse, okay? Can you do that? All right, here we go.
Integrity begins and ends with Jesus. Integrity begins and ends with Jesus. Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Good job. Awesome, 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 awesome job. So integrity begins and ends with Jesus. All right, so now you say, boy, I've never heard that before. Well, when Jesus says that he is the way, that he is the truth, that he is the life, that there's no one that comes to the Father except through him, what he's really saying to us is that as much as you and me would love to be, because everything I just said about being men and women of integrity sounds good, right? Everybody says, well, that's who I want to be. I want to be a man or a woman of integrity. I want to be the same no matter where I am. But I'll tell you something. The pressure to change who we are and what we do is just too great. It's just too great. We fail often. Many people call this failing often. They have a special word for it. It's called humanity. All right? But I want to tell you another word that the Bible labels it as, and that is as sin. And that's why the Bible says that there is no one who has come without sin, because we all sin. We all fail. So for us to enjoy a whole integrity requires us to have a greater power than we possess by ourselves. It requires a godly power. And so Jesus says, if you want that godly power, the power of the Father in heaven, who is full of integrity, who is the God that we can count on. If you'd like to tap into that and have that be your source of integrity, guess what? Jesus is the way. Jesus is the truth. Jesus is the life. No one comes to the Father for their perfect integrity except through me. That's why we say integrity begins and ends with Jesus. So to own real integrity means to have the wholeness and the holiness of God within us. No other way. Now, many of us are part of professional organizations, or we have made promises in the past where we say we're going to live in a certain way with integrity, and you have seen in all of those organizations over and over again, people have failed to do that. Because we say we want to live with integrity, but then the pressure comes and it's hard to do that. So I want to talk to you about how we go about doing that this morning, and doing it in a way that maybe is a little easier to understand for everybody, all right? So let's get started with how we go about doing that, and I need a volunteer. Anybody want to come up and preach this next thing? All right, come on up, John. Tell him that number 3 thing and then read that verse, okay? Let's give a hand to John here, all right?
Number 3. Integrity is always intentional. I have to desire it. So integrity is always intentional. We all have to desire it. Pray for us. We are sure that we have a clear conscience and desire to live honorably in every way. Hebrews 13:18.
Now you stay right there. Okay. Are you sure that God hasn't called you to be a preacher?
No, I'm not sure.
You're not sure. Well, you pray about that, will you?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so what did John just tell us? That integrity is always intentional. We don't come about it by accident. We find when we live with integrity, we do it on purpose, and it's something that we have to want to do. It's something we have to want to desire. This is why Paul, when he is writing to those who are supporting him, he says, hey, pray for us. Why do I say to you all the time, so you say you're praying for me? I say, great, I need it all the time. I'm very appreciative of your prayer. Pray for us. We are sure that we have a clear conscience and a desire to live honorably in every way. See, that's what I want. So how are you going to help me? I want you to pray for me. So we've learned that we can't achieve integrity without Jesus. But here's something else that goes with this. And I know that for those of you who've been around for a while, I'm not going to tell you anything you haven't heard, but I'm just going to affirm it for you. Having integrity is more than just being Christian. Being a Christian, being a Christ follower by itself does not ensure integrity. And this is really sad because the world is filled with Christians who do not do what they say they will do, who do not display integrity. And it is a black mark on their Christian faith and on the entire Christian faith. We have to be very intentional about pursuing integrity, about being a promise keeper. Our prayer is, God, I need your help because I can't do this on my own. God, I need your power because I am powerless in some situations. God, I need your reminder about my integrity, about my promises. Our commitment is to practice integrity. So when I tell you here that we are making a mini resolution for the month of June, if I just said to you, now you go and be men and women and boys and girls of integrity, God bless you, see you next week, that'd be a pretty sad sermon, wouldn't it? Because we got to talk about not just our intentions and our desires and our want-tos, but how do we go about doing that? Well, the rest of our talk this morning is going to be about 3 ways that we can be intentional about integrity. And you'll find those on the back of your sheets if you got them flipping over. And we'll go through these 3 things. Who wants to be the one that you want to come up and tell us and preach for us about how we do this? Can you see that? Can you read that? You want me to help you with it? Can you read? You know what? I don't think people can see you. Can I lift you up?
Yeah.
You okay with that?
But I'm pretty heavy.
Yeah, I know.
Just saying.
All right, here we go. Oh, can you still see it?
Yep.
All right, go ahead and read it.
Integrity in my actions grows out of my thinking. Give careful thought to the paths of your feet and be, what is that?
Steadfast.
Steadfast in all your ways.
All right, Jacoby, let's say hello. Thank you. Good job. What was I thinking asking him if he could read? My goodness gracious. Yeah, that was funny. All right, so this is the first thing. If you want to say, I want to live with integrity, what do I do about it? How do I go about it? Here's the very first thing. That your integrity grows out of your mind. It grows out of your thinking. That's why the Proverbs writer says, give careful thought to the paths of your feet and be steadfast in all your ways. He's saying, hey, think before you speak. Think before you act. Think before you promise. Somewhere, I don't know how to best describe this. I drive a car now that has a clutch. All right, now for some of you who don't know what that means, there's a third pedal. There's a gas pedal, there's a brake, and then there's a clutch. And I use my left foot to engage the clutch. Anytime I want to change gears, anytime I want to, you can't be doing stuff on the phone when you have a car with a clutch because you're driving and you're doing this and you're doing this. I mean, you're using all your limbs, all right? Why do I tell you this? We need a clutch for our tongue. We need to be thinking in our brain before we speak it out with what we say. We have to engage that clutch for our tongue. See, there are some times when we want to be the hero. There's sometimes when we want people to think really well of us, and so we make promises quickly and easily that we cannot easily keep. And then we break those promises because we wanted to be the hero, but we can't live up to what we said, and we just disappoint everybody. This is a show that's probably older than most of these folks here except for John, but some of you remember a very funny show that I remember back in the days gone by called The Office. And there was a guy by the name of Michael Scott who was the head of The Office. You all remember that show? Anybody ever watch that? Very funny show. You guys know that. It's on Netflix, he explains. Of course they know what that is. Thank you for correcting me. There was one episode, though, that was so bad in its humor that I found it difficult to laugh because it was funny, but it was funny in a very sad way. Does that make sense? 10 years ago, Michael Scott made promises to third graders that when they got to be 12th graders, that he would pay for their college education. And you know what happens? 10 years slowly goes by. And now they're 12th graders, and they invite him in to throw him a party because he's been saving money for all of their college education. He hasn't been doing squat. And he has to own up to that promise that he made to them. Isn't that sad? It was sad for me because, it was very uncomfortable because they were very excited for him. They were loving on him. And you could just see this, I am so dead, face. Think first. Integrity in my actions grows out of my thinking. Think first before you say. But there's another aspect to this thinking. And this is the second verse that I have here for you. And let me read it for you. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Now, you've seen this verse before. That's from Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. But I bet you've never connected it with the issue of integrity, living as men and women with integrity. Well, what's one have to do with the other? Well, this is the other thinking aspect of a person with integrity, and that is that the person with integrity, wanting to do the right things in every situation, thinks about, ahead of time, the things that are true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and praiseworthy. A person with integrity fills his mind with things that are noble and right and pure and lovely and admirable and excellent and praiseworthy. He or she is careful about what he or she puts into his or her mind. And can I tell you, there's never been a time when that's been more critical than today. Because we can turn on the television and see so many horrible things and fill our minds with so many horrible things, right? When I was these students' age, very young age, my dad began bringing home cassette tapes for me to listen to. He got them at work, and he would borrow them. And I don't know what it is about me, but I just ate it up. I listened to some of these tapes 100 times. One was by a fellow by the name of Earl Nightingale. And Earl Nightingale tells this story. He says, suppose a farmer has some land, and that land is good, and it's fertile. The land gives a farmer a choice. He may plant in that land whatever it is that he chooses. The land doesn't care. It's up to the farmer to make the decision. Now, Earl Nightingale says that he compares the human mind with the land because the mind, like the land, doesn't care what you plant in it. It will return whatever you plant. But it doesn't care what you plant. So let's say that the farmer has two seeds. In one hand, he has the seeds of corn. In the other hand, he has the seeds of nightshade, which is a deadly poison. And he digs two little holes in the ground. You guys all with me? Hey, you guys in the very front row? All right, now we're all together. We're talking about a farmer, kind of catching you up. And the farmer says the land can do whatever the land wants to do. It depends on what the farmer plants. And so the farmer's going to plant 2 holes, going to dig 2 holes. And in one, he's going to put corn. And the other, he's going to put nightshade, which is a deadly poison. And then he covers it up with the fertile land. And then he waters it and he watches it. And guess what happens? The corn grows, but so does a poison grow, right? They both grow because the land doesn't care. And inevitably, the land returns what is planted. Jesus had a verse for this. It goes like this: as ye sow, so shall ye reap. But somehow we never connect it with our mind. I'm here to suggest to all you students and to suggest to all you parents and grandparents that if you plant good things in your mind, good things will grow out of it. And if you plant lousy things in your mind by just allowing yourself to watch things that you shouldn't watch, lousy things are going to come out of it. The poison, just like the good stuff. All right? So if you want to be men and women, boys and girls of integrity, think first before you talk, and think about what you're planting in your mind. Are you planting in your mind the seeds of integrity? All right. Now there's a second way. First way of going out to be men and women of integrity is by what you plant in your mind. Here is a second way. Who wants to help me preach this time? Yes, come on up here, buddy. You got it. So read that number 5. Say that. If you want to do it twice, you can, and then read that Bible verse for us, all right? All right, let's give a hand for Trey.
Number 5, integrity is not always easy or convenient. For we are taking pains to do what's right, not only in the eyes of the
Lord,
for we are Lord, but also in the eyes of man. 2 Corinthians 8:21.
That's pretty good, Trey. Nice job. Integrity is not always easy or convenient. You see, now, why do we have this in here? Because if you want to be men and women of integrity, if you want to be boys and girls of integrity, you have to understand that integrity doesn't come easy. It does not come cheap. Paul writes here about taking pains. Sometimes being a man or a woman or a boy or a girl with integrity is painful. It's difficult. Being intentional about being a man or a woman with integrity means not looking for the easy road. We are a society that is raised on finding the easiest way someplace. But I'm here to tell you this morning that being a promise keeper is rarely easy or convenient. It means taking and making difficult choices. It means valuing this thing that you can't see called integrity. It means placing a weight on it, valuing it as much or more than something else that you maybe would rather have in the short run. It means making difficult choices. It means valuing integrity more than a financial reward, or valuing integrity over a time commitment. We have to be very careful about how we spend both time and money because we have a limited amount of each of it. And so the question is, how much of that do I dedicate towards this issue called integrity? If we value keeping our promises above something more fun or with greater immediate gratification, that's what we're talking about here, about it not being easy or convenient. About 30 years ago, when Mary Kay and I started having children, Dad started talking about this idea of giving tuition to any child or grandchild or ultimately great-grandchild who would be named Walseen. And that promise was repeated over and over and over again, and the whole generation went by, and nobody named the grandchildren Walseen, from either Todd, Mark, or Kimberly. And then Dad talked, I don't know, probably, how old is Graydon now? 14, 15? 15 years ago, said to all the grandkids, you name a child Walseen, I'll pay for their college tuition. And that went and went and went until about 3 years ago. And Jennifer named Theodore Walseen Carrick. Now, Dad wasn't real specific about it being the first name. And there was a little chuckle that kind of went around the family. Okay, Dad, now you have somebody named Walseen. Walseen is a unique name, right? Not Walt, not Walter, Walseen. Now, Theo, in a couple of years, will turn 5 years old. And on a pretty regular basis, my dad has been giving me money to put into a fund to pay for Theo. And there have been several times when many of us have gone up to him feeling badly about it now because we were just kind of joking around. Dad says, integrity is no joking matter. A promise made is a promise kept. That's a man who values integrity over what he might be able in his 88th year to be able to enjoy from the few $100s that he's putting aside. That's what we're talking about when we say that integrity is not always easy or convenient, but you value it higher than these other things. Does that make sense? All right, so one way that you do the integrity thing is you plant it in your mind, you guard your head, you guard your mind, you engage the clutch, you don't speak quickly or easily, you don't make promises quickly or easily, and then secondly, you understand that when you do make a promise, it's not always going to be easy or convenient. And then we have one more way to be able to live out being a man or a woman of integrity. It's a very simple test. Anybody want to do this last one, or you want me to do it? You want to do it? Who hasn't done it? Anybody hasn't done it? You've all done it. It's been 5 years, so you want to come on up? Come on, buddy. Proud of you for volunteering. So read that number 6, and then read that Bible verse that goes with it, all right?
Simple test for integrity, the golden rule. Do to others as
Apparently they're wanting you to speak up. Try it again.
Simple test for integrity, the golden rule. Do to others as you would have them do to you.
All right, let's say thank you. Good job. Pretty good for the first time he's ever seen it. So here is a simple test for integrity. Say, how do I know if I'm living with integrity? A simple test, as our preacher Bubby has told us, the golden rule. So what is the golden rule? Jesus laid it out for us in Luke 6:31. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Test your choices with the golden rule. How would I feel if I were treated this way? If I rely upon a promise, upon somebody's integrity, and it doesn't happen, what happens to me and my family? Practice the golden rule in the small things in life, and you will naturally learn to practice the golden rule in all aspects of your life. But you fail to apply the golden rule in the small ways, and you'll never apply the golden rule in the big ways. There's a fellow that I like to read. He's also a former preacher. His name is John Maxwell. And he says that the golden rule is the best integrity guideline. He says the golden rule works in the boardroom, it works in the ball field, it works in the classroom, and it works in the living room. It works with employees. It works with employers. It works with families. It works with peers. It works whether you're managing a paper route or a Fortune 500 company. It doesn't matter. It's the same rule. How would I feel if I treated them the way that I'm treating them? How would they feel? How would I feel if somebody treated me that way? So decide today. Students, you decide today. Are you going to be promise keepers? Are you going to be boys and girls who live with integrity? You all decide today. Are you going to be men and women who are promise keepers? The earlier in your life you do it, the better off you're going to be, but it's never too late. If you are not a man or woman with integrity now, then you have to know you're just fooling yourself if you think you're living a godly life. It's that simple. Mindless objects float with the current. Animals have instinct and they respond by instinct. Irresponsible men and women respond with convenience in the short run. Only a man or a woman of integrity will choose integrity no matter what. Are you a mindless object, just floating with the current? Are you an animal that just responds with instinct? Are you someone with irresponsibility and you just do whatever is convenient? Or are you determined to be a man or a woman with integrity? Let's pray.